Today we're going to do a short video walking through the installation of some of the new parts we got from SSD-RC for our Axial SCX-10 II. So the parts we're going to be installing today are their new Pro aluminum C-hubs. I did get those in black to kind of match the black axle case. We have their Pro aluminum knuckles. As you can see, I got those in silver. And then their brass knuckle weights, which attach nicely to their front knuckles and also as an added bonus to their rear lockouts. So that's a pretty nice detail there. You got one piece that works on both sides of the truck. For the sake of time, we've already went and removed the stock pieces from our Axial XJ. We've taken off the stock C-hub and knuckle, and you will also notice that I've replaced the stock red link mount with the SSD-RC aluminum link mount. The reason I went ahead and did that already, I'm going to go ahead and set these aside, we're not going to need them, is SSD moved the clamp for our aluminum C-hub to the back of the axle. And that's really nice because it gets it up out of the way. It's no longer on the bottom of the axle where it can get hung up, caught on rocks, ruin our hardware, things like that. But you'll notice when you go to put this together, because they did that, you will lose access to your lower shock mount. So you definitely, if you're going to replace your lower link or your lower link mount, you'll want to do that before you go ahead and do your assembly with your C-hubs and your knuckles. So now that we know we need to have our links and link mount and lower shock in place before we start our reassembly, we can go ahead and start to put our XJ back together. We're going to start with the Pro aluminum C-hub. You will need to locate your screw. Important note for any of these parts, and something that I realized as I was putting together the other side, you want to use the hardware that SSD has provided, especially with the link mounts. When you do that, you're going to reuse your stock screws that go through your axle, but your screw that mounts your front link and the screw that mounts your lower shock, definitely make sure you use your hardware that gets supplied from SSD. It is slightly different length, and you will bottom out your stock hardware, so make sure you use that. So just be careful when you open your packages. Make note of where each screw is supposed to go. Don't lose track of that, because if you are like me, you will open everything, get really excited, and you have screws everywhere, and then you have to take a couple minutes to try to figure out what went where, and that can definitely add to your reassembly or build time. Reassembling our Axial SCX-10 II with the SSD parts is pretty straightforward. We start with installing our C-hub over the axle. You want to make sure you go ahead and get your orientation correct, side to side, making note of the caster. You do not want to have that off from side to side. So we just go ahead and take a quick look here to make sure, and we are in good shape. Also, you'll want to be careful to make sure your splines line up. These do fit pretty tight over the axle, and that is a good thing. Another important note, I've actually already went ahead and cleaned all of my screws and parts with rubbing alcohol to remove any packaging oil, machine oil, or anything like that off of it, because we are going to be using Loctite on all of our screws that go into aluminum parts today, because we want to make sure our screws stay where we put them. Now that we slid the axle C on the end of our axle shaft, finishing the installation is pretty straightforward. We just use the screw, tighten from the bottom, and snug that clamp up to ensure that our axle C stays where we put it. Now that we've clamped our axle C in place, we will go ahead and reinstall the screw for our pan hard rod. Again, using blue Loctite to help make sure the screw stays where we put it. Now that the installation of our axle C is complete, we can go ahead and start installing our knuckle. We're going to start with replacing the bearings that we took out of our plastic knuckles and insert them into the aluminum knuckle. Now you want to take note here, the tolerances are pretty tight, so you want to make sure you put them in nice and even put even pressure when installing the bearing. Another nice detail with the SSD aluminum knuckles is we're going to be replacing our axial shoulder screw with a brass insert and a traditional screw. Now this is a little bit different from those of you that might be used to a traditional axial rig. We still don't have that flanged pipe that I know you guys love to try to fight with to put together. So if you've put together an SCX-10 original or AX-10, Bomber, AR-60, you know what it's like to try to take your knuckle and your axle and your flange pipes and try to slide it over the C to install it. The nice thing is we do not have to do that anymore. We have a brass insert that inserts from the top after we've put our knuckle on, and then you just put a traditional screw in. So I thought that was a really nice detail. And when I put together the other side, it went together really smooth. So I really enjoyed that. Now that our bearings are in place, we will go ahead and take our axial universal and slide it into our aluminum knuckle, and take the whole assembly and slide it into our axle. Again, it's really nice. I'm not sitting here fighting with flange pipes. All I have to do is make sure that the spline inside the locker lines up with the axle, and it slides right on. Next, we'll take our screw, the brass insert, and a little bit of blue Loctite, and install that screw from the top. And repeat the same steps for the bottom. Now that both screws are tightened, you just want to check to make sure there's no binding. We're good to go. We have smooth movement here, and we can go ahead and reinstall our steering links into our new aluminum knuckles. Again, using a little bit of blue Loctite to make sure that they stay where we asked them to be. Now that we've finished the installation of our new aluminum seat and knuckle, we are going to install our brass knuckle weight. I did learn while assembling the other side, you want to go ahead and put your wheel hex on first, because if you wait, you will lose access to the screw that helps clamp that in place. Installation of our brass knuckle weight is pretty straightforward. You just want to make sure that our notch lines up with the steering arm and slide it in place. You'll feel it kind of lock in. Now you'll just use the supplied screws to install that. Now you'll note I'm not using Loctite. I plan on taking this back apart and doing some detail painting, trying to make it look a little bit more like a brake disc from outside the wheel. And that completes the installation of our new aluminum axle C, aluminum knuckle, and brass knuckle weight. If you guys like this video, be sure to let me know. I look forward to making more videos for you guys in the future.